Emotional tests are rarely obvious. They don't look like questions. They don't sound like challenges. Most of the time, they appear as confusion, mixed signals, sudden distance, or subtle disrespect. And the reason they are so effective is because most people don't realize they are being tested at all. When someone emotionally tests you, they are not trying to understand you. They are trying to measure you. These tests are not about love. They are about safety, power, and control. And they usually happen unconsciously. People emotionally test you when they feel uncertain about their position in the dynamic. Uncertainty creates anxiety, and anxiety pushes people to seek information. Emotional testing is a way to gather that information without asking directly. One of the darkest truths about human behavior is this: when people feel insecure, they don't always seek reassurance. Often, they seek reactions. A reaction reveals more than an answer ever could. When someone pulls away slightly to see if you chase, they are testing how dependent you are. When they say something dismissive to see if you tolerate it, they are testing your boundaries. When they go cold to see if you panic, they are testing your emotional regulation. These tests are not random. They are diagnostic. People want to know how much power they have over you. Not because they are evil, but because power equals predictability. And predictability equals emotional safety. The more predictable your reactions are, the easier you are to manage emotionally. Another reason people emotionally test you is to assess your self-worth. Self-worth is not what you say about yourself. It's what you tolerate. And tests are designed to probe tolerance. If someone cancels plans last minute without explanation, they are testing whether you will accept inconsistency. If they flirt with someone else in front of you, they are testing whether you will suppress discomfort. If they withdraw affection suddenly, they are testing whether you will overcompensate. Each response gives them data. One of the most common emotional tests is silence. Silence creates a vacuum, and vacuums pull emotions to the surface. People want to see what emerges when they remove attention. Do you spiral? Do you chase? Do you explain? Or do you remain stable? Stability is rare, and rarity is attractive. Another dark reason people test you emotionally is to relieve their own insecurity. Instead of processing their internal doubt, they externalize it. They create situations where you have to prove your value, loyalty, or interest. This shifts the emotional burden onto you. If you pass the test by chasing, reassuring, or overgiving, you temporarily soothe their insecurity. But you also reinforce the dynamic where your role is to regulate their emotions. That is where power imbalance begins. Some people emotionally test you to see how much they can get away with. Not consciously, but behaviorally. Boundaries are discovered through friction. Tests create that friction. When friction is absent, people assume flexibility. And flexibility without limits turns into exploitation. Another reason emotional testing happens is unresolved attachment trauma. People who experienced inconsistent affection early in life often recreate that inconsistency. They test closeness because closeness feels unsafe. Testing becomes a way to control intimacy without fully entering it. They pull you closer, then push you away. Not to hurt you, but to regulate themselves. The problem is that these tests can feel deeply personal. They trigger self-doubt. They make you question your value. But the test says more about the tester than about you. Emotionally healthy people don't test others. They communicate. Testing replaces communication when vulnerability feels too risky. Another dark layer here is that emotional tests often escalate. If the first test doesn't produce the desired reaction, a stronger one follows. Silence becomes longer. Disrespect becomes more obvious. Distance becomes colder. Each escalation is an attempt to provoke a clearer signal. This is why reacting emotionally often makes things worse. Strong reactions provide strong data, and strong data encourages further testing. The most powerful response to emotional testing is not confrontation. It is consistency. Consistency disrupts tests because it provides no useful information. If someone withdraws to see if you chase, and you remain calm and grounded, the test fails. If someone pushes boundaries and you enforce them quietly, the test fails. Failure of tests forces a choice. Either respect increases, or the person disengages. Both outcomes are revealing. Another reason people emotionally test you is comparison. They test you against past partners, imagined rivals, or internal standards. Your reactions are measured against a reference point you don't know exists. This is why tests often feel unfair. You are being compared to something invisible. Trying to outperform that comparison is impossible. And trying usually leads to self-abandonment. There is also a gendered aspect to emotional testing. Many men are tested for emotional strength and self-control. Many women are tested for emotional tolerance and loyalty. These are not rules, but patterns shaped by social conditioning. In both cases, the test is about emotional capacity. How much can you hold without breaking? The darkest reason people emotionally test you is fear of losing control. When someone senses they are becoming emotionally invested, they may test you to see if you are more invested than they are. If you are, they feel safer. If not, they feel exposed. Tests restore hierarchy. This is why emotional tests often appear right when things start to feel good. Closeness triggers vulnerability. Vulnerability triggers fear. Fear triggers tests. Understanding this changes how you interpret these moments. Instead of seeing them as rejection, you see them as information. But information must be handled carefully. Passing emotional tests does not mean tolerating mistreatment. That is failing yourself. Passing emotional tests means maintaining self-respect while staying emotionally regulated. The moment you abandon your standards to pass a test, you lose real power. Emotionally healthy dynamics do not require testing. They require mutual clarity. If someone continuously tests you instead of communicating, the relationship becomes a psychological exam you never signed up for. And no amount of passing will ever feel like winning. The most important realization is this: emotional tests are designed to see whether you will stay grounded or collapse into reaction. Grounded people are rare. And because they are rare, they are often tested the most. Not because they are weak, but because they matter. Once you recognize emotional tests for what they are, they lose their grip. You stop reacting automatically. You respond deliberately. Or you don't respond at all. And that shift alone changes the entire dynamic. Because the darkest reason people emotionally test you is this: they want to know if you will lose yourself to keep them. And the moment you don't, the test ends.